of Boris's work up on view just until this weekend, but the exhibition will live on virtually on our website, which is craftedinamerica.org. So you can feel free to visit that in the future. This talk is being recorded, and many of you will probably be watching this in the future on our YouTube channel or on craftedinamerica.org as well. And we also have all kinds of additional archived prior artist talks and videos of our episodes and all kinds of additional content if you just click into our site or YouTube channel for that matter. And without further delay, I'm going to pass over to Boris. I'm going to encourage you all to type any questions that you have for him into our chat so that he can address them at the end of his talk. And we will begin. Thank you so much for being with us today. Passing over to you, Boris.
Hello. Aloha.
Let us know if you need any. Oh, there we go. Give it just one moment while Boris gets set here. Let us know as well in the chat where you're joining us from. We know some of you are probably just starting your morning, and hopefully others are from across the country. But Boris, whenever you are ready, it is all yours.
Aloha, everyone.
Aloha, Boris.
Thank you for the opportunity to 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 talk to everybody and share my work and sorry, I have a little bit. uh, am I sharing
You
the
are
screen now?
sharing, yes, and however, it's not your first image, it's your third image.
Okay. So the image you see is actually they are my kumus, and kumus means teachers. So it's a anti-Meru and anti-Paulette, and those images actually took when it's way back when I first started doing the lays enter for the shows at the school. So uh, the whole journey would be started back to 2003. But actually, I met aunties, both aunties, Auntie Meru, Kekueva, Auntie Paulette, Kahalipuna. Uh, I met them when I first came to Hawaii, visit Hawaii back to 2000. And they have a shop, a little fit shop in near Waikiki, it's a Kapahulu area. So I went in, and when I saw all those feathers they have, and it was the kids going to the candy shop, just like that. And I was so amazed by the Hawaiian feather work. Uh, but I didn't start it until 2003 summer. So I was still in school. So I took a break and then I spent 2 months with him and I couldn't finish 2 inches. And that's how I started. Like I go in 5 o'clock in 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then 5, 6 days a week. And but I just couldn't get it. But in my mind, it's like I know something's wrong, but I don't know what. And then you just try to figure out everything. And then suddenly, Antipolet, uh, Anti-Meru, they just say, babe, you'll be okay. You have my blessing. And then somehow I went home and I finished that first lay in 6 months. And then the following year, uh, Antipole was on the trip, and then Antimeru was watching the shop, so we went in to spend time with her, and then that's how she taught me the Kamoi style. And then the difference between Antipole and Antimeru is uh, Antipole will tell you all the detail, like all the steps you need to do, how to cut the feathers, and how to tie it and tie the feathers. But Antimeru was quite different. She didn't tell you anything. And then all she did is she said, sit down. And then she grabbed the feathers and then she showed you how to tie the feathers. And then she put the back to you and say, did you see it? And then the first I was like, can you, ask her to do it again. So she did. And then she come back again and ask you, did you see it? And then I say, yes. So from there, no more words. You just have to do it yourself. So it's a very different teaching style between Antipollet and Timeru. And so Antipollet mainly is running the shop, and then she also teach and she travels. And then later on, when they start travel, then I will watch the shop for them, you know. And then sometimes when they go out to teach, then they would bring me with them, and then they would give me a couple of kits, and then I would teach them how to make a lathe for that. And then that's the times I figure, you know, I really love this work and I really enjoy it. And those two ladies, they played a big role in Hawaii, federally making. And without them, we probably don't have that many people would know how to do it. They used to teach on the beach. I heard they were teaching on the beach. Wherever they go, they teach. And they don't limit to only locals or Hawaiian. Everybody who wants to learn how to make a lace, they teach you. So that's how I get into it. And then I think I started falling in love with lamb first, more than making a lathe. And then slowly it you touch the feather and then you fall in love with the feather. And then that's how I started to get into it. And after I finished school, then I have an opportunity to work for a local company. And then fortunately, my boss, he's really want to bring these cultural arts back. So I'm become a artist in the house and we started push the feather lathes to the market, and then more people can see it for that. So The
Boris, I'm so
mhm.
sorry to interrupt. Could you switch to full screen view?
Oh, okay, like that.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much.
So the feather lathes have a two main style, and one is skinny rope kind. It's called Kamoi style and Poi Poi style, and it's more fluffy. And you also have a headband and then kahiri. Kahiri in the past represent we call it feather standard, and you represent the royalties. And they also have a feather cape, feather helmet, feather apron, and the feather lei was only used by the female Ali, which is like a queen's princess. And then the cape is more for the man, the high chief to wear it for the battles. And then of course the kahilis, it come with a different height. So sometimes it can be very just small, and sometimes it can be big, like a 6, 7 foot tall for that. And it just represented the royalty, So some designs were special created for a certain people for that. And then the headband, which is not much involved with the hand tied, it's more like a stitching. And then we consider this is more contemporary pieces because that's after missionary introduced needle and thread to the island, and then also the the Asian immigrants, they brought some different you know type of birds like pheasants to the island. So that's how we started seeing those headbands down the cowboy hat, for that. So today, most of people, I mean, there's a lot of people making lace. I mean, a lot of people. All of the hula dancers, they go to the hula school, and some particular halals, the hula school, they would have to you learn how to make a lace, feather lace as a part of their programs for that. So you can see people say, "Oh, my uncle, my auntie, so and so make a lathe." So this feather lathe in the history is very important to learn, and then also it's a part of their programs when they talk about Hawaiian cultures for that. And the feather lathe making, there's not much tools for that. So as long as you got the little clippers and needle and thread for the ribbons, and then little measuring gauge to cut the feathers, then you can start a lathe. And the uh, for the starters, that's all you need. And then there's a one tool, a particular tool we use. It's called third hand, and this particular you can see it from the images there. There's a little clip with a fishing hook, a fishing tool. I don't know how to call it, but we borrowed from the Japanese kimono making, and then combined with the fishing gears together. So it helps you to anchor the lathe when once you start to go making lathes, it will get longer and it will be harder to control your hands, and then between your fingers, your hand, and then also the way you tie it on it. So that's why we use these tools to help you anchor the 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 lathe and your hands while you're making, tying the feathers for that. So these tools normally we don't we try not to use it when we started learning it, because once you get used to it, it's very hard to not to use it when you're making lathes. Like now, if you ask me to make a lathe without this using third hands, And I mean, I still can do it, but it's like what drives me crazy if I not to use those third hand to help me for that. So those tools, uh, as long as you have the clipper, a ruler, needle and thread, and then a small towels as your stationery, then you can make a lathe everywhere. And I heard Auntie used to bring feathers with her when she traveled. So she make lathes while she in the air. So that's how easy you can start a lathe working on the lathes, and it doesn't require too many tools or space. And then, of course, now I will use a different kind of scissors, and then the rulers might have a additional rulers when I work out the pieces for that. Other than that, it's quite simple. And then uh, tying lathes, it's just if you can count four, then you can make a lathe. So you see one in a video, and then now you see my hand turn the second one, and then you rub the tray for the third time. And then the fourth time, you raise your fingers to create a loop, and then you make a knot and tie the feathers. And that's how simple to make a lathe. So you keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And number 4, you raise your finger, create the loop, and then pull the tray to make a knot to tie the feathers. So each feathers all have an individually tied and knotted. And then you just go from the very top and all the way to the down finish until you finish. And there's no rolls on it. It's just tiny spirals keep coming down from the top to the end of the lathe for that. And then when after I started the lathe and then I start helping aunties, they do some projects and then teach. And then after both auntie passed away, and I started have, like I had to figure out some way to show my work that would separate myself from the Hawaiians, the locals, or any other lay makers. So since I'm originally from Taiwan, and it's you know it would be easier for me to tell my own story rather than me to tell other people's story. So I started have a you know putting the thoughts and then the influence that from my own culture, my own background into a lay for that. So the images you see, this is a beautiful lake in Taiwan. It's called Sun Moon Lake. And it has a very beautiful story about uh, the native tribe in Taiwan. So this particular tribe, they used to live on the coast, and then they follow this white deer into the mountain, and then this deer leads those people into the Samun Lake area. So they have plenty of fish and then vegetations. So the tribe, they decided to move from the ocean, the coastline, into the mountain. And then, so the Samun Lake has this story called White Deer Legend, the legend of White Deer. So I create this lake to use a Hawaiian traditional feather work to tell uh, a tribal stories of Taiwan. So you can see the lake, right? So I choose the bluish color for that. And then the moon, the sun, when the lake closer, it represents sun. And then I also create a fish, and then the fish form a Chinese character moon for that. So this is the lace I create to use a Hawaiian traditional featherwork to tell a story of a Taiwanese tribal story for that. And then uh, the necklace you see actually it's belong to Qing dynasty, which is about 100, over 100, 200, 300 years ago for that. And then they have this feather necklace in the Taiwan's National Museum. And those, it looks just to me, when I saw it, it looks like the Hawaiian feather lace, like a Kamoi style. And they have these pearls on it. So those pearls, I believe they say it's only used by the princes and queens. So these particular pieces was only used by the female, and is similar to the Hawaiian feather lace. They only used by the female elites, which is the Hawaiian princess, Hawaiian queen. So there's a similar, like how could two different places they have a similar the items only used by the female. So I create this lace use a Hawaiian traditional style, and I choose yellow is because of the both yellow it also represent a royalty in both countries. I mean Chinese and Hawaiians for that. And I found those sparkle feathers from Pika pheasant to represent the pearls for that, and then to create these pieces to like a mirror images from two different cultures for that. And then the next image is the feather cape. And this cape, it was created uh, inspired by the red head crane. And this bird, it means a long life, and then they also meant for life. So they have a very good meaning, and it's a symbol of a long life and love in Chinese culture and even Japanese culture. They have these birds too. So I create this feather cape and to inspired by these birds for that. And then since the cape it's made to wear, so you can see this is my Auntie Ma, and she wear the cape. And then if you look closer to the cape, and you can see the bottom, the there's a black on it, and then also the black on the shoulder part. And that's a when you roll the cape together and it mimic the crane, the image of a crane for that. And this cape also shows in the New York Times, and the article is about talk about me, um, how I use the design to bring the traditional Hawaiian feather work into the fashion and more contemporary designs for that. And then the following image, this cape is in a show. Uh, the reason I use a lot of chicken feathers is because the chicken, uh, it has a great meaning for the Taiwanese people. And the chicken sounds like a ji, which is in Mandarin and Taiwanese language, okay, that represent the house, the home, the family. So if you go to the wedding banquet, you're going to have a dishes come out first come out it's a chicken because that means that the the newlywed couple they're going to start their family and they're going to build a house and that's why it doesn't matter where you go the wedding banquet you always have the chicken come out first because that represent the best wishes for the newlywed to to start their own families for that. And that's why I really loved use feather, chicken feather for the cape. It's because um, they have such good meaning to me. And also the chickens to the Taiwanese, the Chinese, you also have it's a very powerful animal because when the chicken calls, their call can chase away the evils, the devils, the bad stuff. So, if someone going to have a cape and put it display in their house, I would wish them all the best luck, and I don't want any bad stuff any to come closer. So that's the reason I love using chicken feathers for the feather cape to make a cape because it just have the very deep hidden meaning in it. So that's how I loved doing that. And then of course the four pieces of a lace in the show that's a Chinese mythical creatures. So I use a peacock feathers, create a dragon, phoenix, tiger, and turtle. And then that all involved with the uh pheasants as an essence to create this collection for that. And then the next piece is a feather apron. And this apron, I only saw three images from the book. And I have asked a lot of people about it, and not too many people know about the feather aprons. But actually, it was part of the Hawaiian cultures. It was supposed to wear to protect their chest for the males that when they're doing a battle, so they use that to create the protection between their body and then also show their status for that. And so uh, after I created, I have my neighbor um, to put it on to show that if it works. So that's how it's supposed to look when they wear it on them. And then of course, there's some collections is more fun, collections. So I have this big cat collection. So I use the feather work to represent, come to do the patterns of the big cat. So I have a tiger, I have a cheetah, I have then we have a white tiger in the show, and then I also have another one, another creation is snow leopards for that. So that's how I bring the feather work, use my creativities, my and different type of feathers to create those patterns, and not just traditional patterns of a Hawaiian feather work for that. So.
Thank you so much for that excellent summation of all that you do. That's fantastic. We are opening for questions, and I will begin. And again, anyone can type them into the Q&A or the chat, whatever works. I wanted to start by asking you if you could tell everyone a little bit about that cape that you made for the exhibition and specifically the representation of California that you wove into that, because it's a great story.
Well, the Cape, since it's going to first shows in California, Los Angeles, and so in my mind, it's like I got to come up something can represent the California. And I used to live in California, Orange County, Irvine, Orange County. So the first thing come to my mind was it's Golden State, and we got to have something close to that. So I asked my feather suppliers, you know, to find a feather for me. So we look into all the feathers, and I mean, I can always dye the goose feather into the golden color, but that would not be a natural color for that. And for the cape, I prefer to have a natural color. And then we found these chicken feathers, back to the chicken again. And it's just so beautiful. So I say, okay, this would be the one, and I don't want to have any other colors to it. So the cape, I finished, and I use a gold thread for that to weave on it. So if you can flip to the back, if you have a chance to see the back, and when the lights hit it, the sunlight or any kind of lights hit it, you're going to see the little sparkles behind it, and that what shows it like I mean, it's a something you gotta see it in person for that. And then the cape, since it's a natural color feather. And one thing about chicken feather is they don't have when you see the feathers, they either shine the entire piece of feathers or they only shine on the tip of feathers. So for this particular cape, the shiny parts, it reflects on the tip of feathers. So when the lights hit it and you wear this cape on your body, and you with a movement, you're gonna see this sparkling effect around it. And then I mean, even when I finished, I took it outside under the sun. I mean, myself, I was like, oh, that's more than I expected when I see the the finished the product. So.
Yes, be proud. Absolutely. That extra bling that you wove into that piece is pretty spectacular. And I wonder, so are the capes, you mentioned the New York Times, and the fashion industry interest. Do you see that? I mean, you've really taken this tradition and made it global in the ways that you're tapping into Taiwanese and Chinese culture. Is it is the interest in the fashion industry in feathers growing? Are you
Um,
interest?
Over here in Hawaii, we do have the the native group. They have a fashion show, so they will create. They they put some like a fashion elements into it, or they put a feather work to with a fashion designs for it. So they do have some connection between that. But for my work, um, I tend to keep everything traditional. So when you look at my work, it looks like there's no it's a feather work, Hawaiian feather work. But the elements that put it into it, it's more contemporary. I may have the designs it doesn't look like Hawaiian traditional patterns for that, but it create the something it looks more fashionable and more wearable for that. So my auntie Ma particularly, she had I always make a lay for her dress. So she would go find a fabric and then she come back and say, babe, I need a lay and this is the dress. Then I would create something to match that. But it would still look traditional lace, not like a I don't like to take it out anything away from the Hawaiian traditional format because that's the way I believe I need to keep. But even the design, I can change it. The into the contemporary designs or fashionable wearable design. But the roots of the basic the format, I still tend to keep that because I believe uh, you know, some like a technique, everybody can skip at certain steps to make it faster, but I don't do that. I don't like to do that. It's because I'm still worried if I skip a certain step, then throughout the times we might lost the traditional technique to it. So even today, I still wash feather, whatever my teachers taught me, I still keep everything they taught me for that. But the design, I would, Auntie Meru, before she passed away, she said, I'm not in a box. So on the design side, I can do whatever I want. I can tell my own story. I can make a, and cheetah lace. I can make a fish lace, but I still try to keep everything. I preserve the technique and then the format of the artwork itself. Still, I still want to keep it as a traditional as possible because um, I think it's quite important for the people to know, you know, the Hawaiian feather work is so unique, and even we can bring it. Today we use a goose feather, we dye to different color, but the roots, I think, personally, I think you still have to keep that. It doesn't matter how you switch, how the tools we use it, but the roots still have to go back to the past. You cannot lost that part. That's how I look at it for that.
Yeah. Um, on that front, well, first let me back up because we do have images available of the back of the cape that we can share so that people have an idea of what that looks like and even the structure. I think Victoria will be able to share those in a moment. Um, and I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but so all of that, there you see Boris's fine detail craftsmanship there, and the glimmering golden feathers really just add a little pow to that piece that you wouldn't believe. Um, yeah, it's that continuity of tradition that you have picked up on, and I wonder whether with your kumu or even just what you know over these years, have you noticed necessary changes because the materials are different that you're working with than what was used historically, whether it's the tools or the different kinds of feathers that you use today, or
Uh,
the thread for that matter. Does that, change? Does it open up more possibilities for you? Or, do you try to just strictly use the tools and materials that are closest to the original tradition?
uh, because the traditional material we have used in the past, it's not available now because the trees, it's very hard to grow those trees, and nobody going to spend time to cut down those trees to turn into, the netting for that. So we kind of try to preserve those trees, and that's why today a lot of people like my first cape, the netting anti-prepare, yeah, actually it was a screen, like a screen, the window screen for that. You just use that for the netting. But to me, it's like it doesn't, it's not practical. So I use the canvas, the rock for that, and it's a natural material. It's soft, and I think it lays out much better and much closer to the old pieces we have. But some people use a fishing net, or there is a different type material people use it. But for me, it's like I like to use natural fibers for that. So, and then
And I imagine even since your auntie learned originally when she was young, and that those materials shifted too, just over the course of her lifetime, probably. Is that?
Yeah, I I do believe that because it was I believe it was someone from outside come back to the island to teach aunties, the Hawaiian
Mm.
people to bring back this feather cape making. And then today, I do know there's some other group they focus on the making feather cape, so they have their own way to 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 do it to use a different type of netting and technique or the way they do it, but uh, there, of course, there's nothing right or wrong with that. It's just that the way you want to create it. So the way I'm doing it, it just simply is I learn from NTs and I keep everything I learn. I still using the same technique. And I do know uh, there's a people with, over time they will skip certain steps to it. For like a headband, for example, uh, they have a certain way to stitch that, and it would be faster for that. But to me, I still like what I learned from Antis because it looks much clean and secure. You don't want to have a wear it and then there's feather just drop all over the place, right? So that's the thing is because there's a certain way we keep it for a reason. It's because it's wearable art. You got to be able to wear it, and you also got to secure those feathers for that. Yeah. So you can. I just sometimes I look at some people's work, and of course there's no such thing called corrected way to do it because you know it all drops somewhere and they pick up from someone, and it come to today when we learn about it because it just it's just like you go to different school. There's a different school teaching certain things, and then they just think, so every school would teach different things, and I just keep whatever I learn from NTs. So if you ask me if my way is to, I I don't know, but I know this is what my kumus taught me, and I'm gonna keep doing this too. So when people ask me, do you have any pieces from kumus? The fact is that every single pieces I make, it's all from my kumus for that. So
Mm. Beautiful.
yeah.
Did did they get to see much of your the new colors that you've incorporated? I'm trying to remember in your talk what you had said about when she passed away. Um, all the I know she encouraged you to tell your story, and I wonder if she got to see much.
Um, Auntie Meru didn't see. Well, I believe she still can see every pieces, but uh, Auntie Paulette was right before she passed, and we have a talk, and there's certain things she wants me to do, and I told her no because when you involved with the culture parts, your own people, the Hawaiians, there's no place for me to get involved with their things. So I did show Auntie the material I use now and how I do it, and then she should love it. And then so that's just between me and my teachers. But for me to go out and say you got to do this way, you got to do that way. I don't think I can do that for
Well,
that.
on that front, and there was a question about how Craft in America came to be introduced to you and your work. And I just want to credit the Hawaii statewide craftsmen, their organization and their annual exhibition, which is how we came to know each other,
Mhm.
because you are a member and an active part of that organization, which does phenomenal work to elevate contemporary crafts across the islands. Um, but yes, I think one lesson that I learned at the time from you was that there are a lot of there's a lot of feather work happening, but much of it is not the traditional process that you are doing and the tying of each feather, but sometimes it is glued. And that was really interesting to know. And I think, to those of us who are untrained, and it's also such fine work that you really have to kind of dig in deep to realize what the technique is for some pieces. But is that predominantly, is that a lot of the work that's happening that you see?
Well, in the past, the Hawaiian actually they are very forward. Look at the palace we have here. That was the first building, had electricity, had a toilet, you know, in the house. So if you think about Hawaiian monarch, the kings, they are very forward. If they see something new, they probably wouldn't have used it already. So if they know they can have a diamonds, they probably will put a diamonds on the cape too, right? So that's how I think when I create certain things. It's like when I see new things and I like to the new elements I like to put it into my work. It's because um, I would think they probably see it, they would love it too. So if I can put a diamonds on my cape, I definitely would put a diamonds on my cape for that. And then glue, there's nothing wrong to glue it. But if you're going to talk about how to preserve the Hawaiian culture, this traditional art, then back to its roots, there's no glue involved with it, right? So today, when we look at it, we can say, oh, it's wrong to use glue because if they have glue in the past, they probably would use that for that. So it's just a different time and different backgrounds for that. So this also involved with the people when people talk about the feathers, do we have to kill the birds to get the feathers? Yes, we do, because we recycle whatever we eat to do it, but it's not necessary to kill the bird for the feathers. So in the past, you can gather, even today, you can gather feathers during the molting seasons or the parrots. You have pet birds and you clean the cages, you can collect those feathers. So there's a different way to do it, different way to gather feathers. So um, I don't think we should judge how you know the feather will gather because it's different time and they don't kill birds, they can gather during the molting seasons, and then if even they do kill the birds, it was just like us, we eat chickens, you know so it's a recycle those feathers for the work for that. So it really is not necessary say, oh, you kill the birds, do it, or it's just a different time. Like today, if we're going to create something exactly the same from the past, we won't be able to do it. It's because we don't have those materials, right? So we just have to use modern days the materials, but we preserve the technique to, you know, so we can preserve these cultural arts to it. But that's how I look at it. It's a different time, different background for that.
Mhm. Different, yeah, different stories too.
Yeah.
Um, we have a question about the complication or challenges of using feathers and what things you may have seen as challenges, but that have grown into new ways of working.
I think the most challenging part is because today we have so many feathers sources. You can use different type of birds for that. So uh, even we use goose feather and we try to trim it down to make it look like a small feather, feather from the small birds. But consider for me, most challenging parts when I create a pattern and different birds would have a different texture. And also the feathers from different parts of bodies, you have a different texture too. So how are you going to work all different, the feather from different breeds and different species and different parts of feather. You're going to put everything together and not to have them, like against each other. You got to have them all stay together, right? So that's the challenge part. And for me, that's a lot of calculations to it, like how you're going to cut this piece of feather and then put it into the lathe without you stick out too much. Especially for the Kamoi style, you don't want to have a feather that goes in and it just pop out right there. So that's a calculation, and also have to study the birds for that. So you get into it, you study the birds, and you understand the feather texture from the different parts of the body, and then you will be able more you'll be more you understanding these piece feathers you have, and then it will be easier to use to work into the lathe for that. So that's the challenging part for myself is like because there's different, it's just so many birds feathers we can have now compared to the past. They only limit to the local birds, right? So that's the challenges I have today.
Yeah, and I think your video that you shared makes it seem so smooth and easy that you just have all the perfect feathers sitting right next to you, and one by one, it doesn't matter which feather you pick up, it's just perfectly going to fit in, and you're going to perfectly be able to hold it and have the tension, and it's all those subtle nuances that are the key really to your craft that are so hard to for anyone to absorb. And so, of course, it takes at least 6 months at the outset to make a first piece and so on. But you definitely convey it as being very smooth. Do you prep? Do you have to prep, as you're saying, that the feathers have different textures, even from the same bird? Do you have to prep, like group out which feathers you're going
Yep,
to? I assume that's,
I
yeah,
do.
part of the process.
So like a Chris, we have the other artist, his work, when I look at his work, it's like, "Oh, I wish I have those feathers, but it's like, I don't want to cut it because we don't cut it. And then, of course, the feathers I use are much smaller compared to the feather he uses, is much bigger and stiffer. So whatever feathers I don't use it, I probably can give it to Chris, and then he can give me whatever he cut it last over for that. So
Of a feather swap for you.
yeah,
Somebody's actually asking about the smallest feather that you can work with and budgie feather. Is that too small?
the smallest feathers I use is this feather. This headband is penguin feathers. So they are very tiny and their feather is different because unlike other birds' feather is rounded, but since they have to swim and their feather is against their body, so they actually it's flat. So I never used that. So to stitch this band, I it took a long time for me to figure out how to to have the needle goes in to stitch the feathers on it without damaging the feathers for that. And
Mhm.
those feather actually is quite tiny. It's I think the longest one maybe just about an inch and 1.25 inch. Maybe that's the longest. And the smallest one is like a maybe not even half an inch for that. So
Wow. Okay. Um, primarily, is this a commission? You do a lot of work by commission, I assume? Yes. Okay, and last question as we wind down here, which is also perfect for people to know. Do you prefer to have your work be worn or framed?
I like them to I like people to wear it. But I since there's certain designs, it was so unique. Most of people when they see it, they don't want to wear it. But I always encourage you can wear it. You go wear it at least to the event, to the party, and then come back, we put it on. So we do have a lace, I do have a lace made for the weddings, so the brides can wear it and then send it back, we frame it. But in the store, we do frame most of all the lace is because when today, most of people, they come to see my work, they just want to display, they admire my work, thanks them everybody for that. And but it just said everybody always want to frame it so they can protect it. But actually, every single piece is of my work. You can wear it.
Fantastic. Yes, I know. And as you've said, it's durable because the
Yeah.
birds wear these feathers their whole lives. I think
You
that
can you can wear the cape and go into the shower without getting wet too.
exactly. We forget they seem so fragile, but they're some of the
No,
most.
it's very durable. Everything it's properly made, then you shouldn't be worried about anything. That's a in my mind, that's how my teacher taught me. It's like if it's properly made, it shouldn't be a problem. So I heard Auntie used to with smash your legs on the table. So if you didn't do it right, the feather would just come off. And that's the story I heard, but she never told that to me. So I don't know.
I love that. It's fabulous. We need those standards that that quality control in our world more and more these days. Well, thank you so much. This has been super informative. It's fascinating to see your work and hear what you're bringing into this tradition and how you're progressing it forward. So, thank you, and thanks for everyone for watching.
Thank you. Aloha.